the gates of Camino.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, here's one of the great legends of Hollywood. She's back with us tonight, Miss Snow White. Good evening.
Oh, good evening, Mr. Archer. It is so exciting to be here tonight. I'm a little late, though. Can you tell me how to get into the theater?
That's easy, Snow. Just follow the Hollywood stars.
Follow the Hollywood stars? Oh, follow the Hollywood stars! There are stars out tonight. Stars with glamour are gleaming and bright. And we only have stars for you, dear. The ones you have made in the annual Oscar parade. Yes, we only have stars for you. Good evening, and welcome to the 61st Academy Awards. It's so exciting to be back in Tinseltown. I've missed it so. I remember the movie premieres at Grauman's Chinese Theater and the wonderful star-studded parties at the Coconut Grove. Why, I have so many wonderful, wonderful memories of my Hollywood.
I was just catching up on a couple of those videos about the topic at hand. This fucking thing. Now, tell me why, because I think I know why, but tell me why it came up in your mind. Because didn't you see it like on Rogan or something?
Well, I do. I've always so yeah. I recently that's what got me going on it was not recently, but it was probably a little while ago. He was on
Yeah, because
Rogan.
the video was like 4 years old. It's at least the video of him on Rogan that you're talking
Right,
about.
but I guess when I watched it on my YouTube thing came up, the clip of them talking about
Right,
maybe
right.
a year ago or so I saw it. And he was
An
talking
algorithm,
about
man.
bombing and Rogan was talking about bombing on stage. And then Rob Lowe's like, oh, you want to hear about the biggest bomb ever?
Yeah,
And then
Jesus
they get
Christ.
into it and stuff. And I remember my brothers and I, we loved,
You
all this
watched
stuff
this
over here.
one when
We
it
watched all the
happened.
Oscars every year. Every year
Yeah.
we watched the Oscars. Yeah.
Damn, yeah. So this one, it's weird because I only know of it in retrospect and like memory. I feel like I would have watched it because I was old enough and was around.
Yeah, 89.
But maybe not. I just don't remember it clearly unless it's like this kind of looking back at it. It was a shit show. We're talking about the shit show of shit shows, though. Frankly,
Yes. Now this was the opening of the 1989, the 61st annual Oscars. This was the
Yeah.
opening act. What happened? It was like this infamous thing. So it was every year the Oscars they have one of those just lame opening
Yeah.
shows. And
Yeah.
you know what I was laughing the most when I watched it? Like I've only watched the whole thing recently twice after the Joe Rogan interview and then just now what you sent me. So I just watched it. My favorite part is this thing had so many different change ups. Like you think it's over, then
Yeah.
something else starts. I
Yeah.
always love how the crowd has to clap every time something changes.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they're just like, fuck.
They're like, what the? Yeah. Some of them you could see their expressions registered in in wide shots and close ups.
Oh
some
yeah,
of them
no, their faces were great.
were
So
like
explain,
horrified.
talk
at some
about
points.
talk about what happened. Like talk about
So-
the actual thing.
So we're talking about Alan Carr's Oscars that. So
Yeah, he produced it.
I was reading up on it, and he was a producer, and he was the producer of Grease, and just for context, which was a huge hit in 1975, 76, right? I think.
Yeah,
And
78,
so he, I guess, was also before this Oscars, he was sort of introduced to it by being allowed to organize, I think, like the governor's ball, right? Which is the big party after the show. It's always been that. And I think recently it's like the Vanity Fair governor's ball, but it's, a big party that they have. That's part of it's the official like Oscars after party. And so I guess he was offered to organize that in 77 and was a big hit. So he, by I guess his own admission, was a fat, ugly gay queen growing up, and he always felt ostracized. So that, at least that's what some of the videos were saying about him. And it kind of checks out. And he somehow found himself being offered to host the 89 Oscars, right? So it said that produce it. Sorry. Yeah. Not host, produce it. And so he, I guess, came up as a showman. I guess he had worked at the Coconut Grove, right? The old venue off Wilshire.
Yeah, a lot of people got their start there. That's why they had Merv Griffin in it and everything.
Correct.
Like that.
This show, man. And it was was it the opening or like the second show? It's like the second act of it. It was
the very beginning of the show. Remember, Snow White walks out and he's like, "Follow the stars." Yeah. Snow White. Yeah. She's like,
Merv Griffin, right? So it's Merv Griffin shows up.
So they recreate the Coconut Grove, which was at the Ambassador Hotel. Was this famous?
That was the motif, right? Yes. That was the motif,
and for some reason,
Merv Griffin. He brings out this an unknown actress named Eileen Bowman. Shout out to Eileen Bowman.
Okay, shout out Eileen.
Because she was a young girl in this. She plays Snow White. And what I found out was that at this time, there was I think it was in San Francisco, there was like a stage show that they said still runs today. But of course, these videos are kind of old, called Beach Blanket Bingo, I think is what it's called, right?
Yep.
Well, Alan Carr has seen this show, and I don't even think he really like paid direct like homage to it, but it was just an obvious like lift from this show to the point where the actress in that show called Beach Blanket Bingo was tapped to play Snow White, which that was her role in that Beach Blanket Bingo. Eileen Bowman has this high pitched squeaky voice, which did no one know any favors. That was, I don't know, when you look back at it, I personally think that was kind of the most annoying part, was that screech of
that
her
video
voice.
You sent me with
it was like
Bruce
Minnie
Valanche.
Mouse.
Mm-hmm, it was, and that Bruce Valanche video you sent me, he kind of summed it up when he was like, they shouldn't have put her through the crowd. Like when these actors, they've worked so hard, and they kind of look at themselves, they don't want this fucking, he's like this costume girl or whatever he called her.
When they saw that, oh shit! I was like, "Yup, it's desperate." Yeah, it just looked, and
she got a bad rap though. I feel bad for her. She's just over, man. She really did.
I think there was maybe like a Vanity Fair, some profile about her, and she's like, they showed up at my house and all but cloth bagged her, I think they blindfolded her. Yeah. Like they blindfolded her as like part of the interview or the auditioning.
Oh, that's right. I did hear that.
Just like real shady shit until they were like, okay, fine. You're picked and here's what it's going to be. And she was like, oh, okay. Like she wasn't phased, but good. That's one thing you cannot take away from watching this, even though her voice is like, just imagine Minnie Mouse. Okay. It's literally Minnie Mouse on steroids was her voice as Snow White. And so, right. So this is where it begins to go off the fucking rails, is where Snow White is now, careening through the stars. And then I think all of a sudden Merv Griffin goes,
well, no, she gets to the stage. She gets to the stage, and then she's like, welcome to the Coconut Grove. And that's whenever all of a sudden Merv Griffin starts emceeing the whole thing. And they start bringing out those old stars.
Right. Oh, that's right. Wait, this, I don't remember, but I just know he fucking says meet your date, and it's a 1989 Rob Lowe.
Well, that happens. That. So what happens? They bring out all those old stars first. So he's he's emceeing. So they're bringing
Rob
up
Lowe, that's
Roy Rogers and his wife, Sid Charisse.
Oh God, who is such a bitch too. Like she was just always known to be a fucking bitch. Like she was just
love you, Sid. We love
stuck
you.
Up Sid Charisse.
who else
And
came
then
out?
after they do all that,
Dorothy Lamour came
Dorothy
out.
Lamour,
Just these
Vincent Price.
old stars that even for 1989 they were old. They were
Oh
old
yeah, they
studio
had to carry
stars. Though.
Dorothy Lamour out. I
They had
think
to carry
Didn't
Dorothy
they had to
Lamour.
shoulder her.
Yeah, Gregory Peck wouldn't get out of his seat or something like that. Gregory Peck actually led the outrage. But before we get to that, this show.
So after they do
goes
the
through-
old stars, once they do the old stars, then all of a sudden
Which
he's like,
they
Snow
look
White, here's
decrepit.
your date, and that's when Rob Lowe comes out.
Yeah, and those old stars brought nothing. They were dead at the eyes. They were all dead at the face. You talk about like
they
early
rush them out real
facelifts and
fast
stuff.
too. They
Yeah,
kind of wait
you
for the
know,
crowd and you just get pushed out.
It felt like an infomercial. You know, it really kind of felt like they were selling some kind of, something. It just felt fake as fuck.
It was hilarious. Yeah.
So funny though. And even people in the crowd are dying laughing, and people in the crowd are looking horrified. Like,
yeah, Robert
have
Downey
you-
Jr. looked high as fuck, and he's just clapping really slow. And I
that's
could just
right.
see him,
He's just
what the
like
fuck?
slow clapping it.
But
So,
yeah, Rob Lowe comes out,
Rob
and
Lowe
they start
comes
doing a rendition of. Go ahead, talk about that.
This is inarguably, without a doubt, the moment, like the record
off the
scratch of
rails,
the
yeah.
moment. Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it was already kind of not there, but this was the moment where he and her duet a weird, a newly worded Proud Mary.
Yeah, remember they're like used to work on the lot for Walt Disney.
I'm not gonna do it. It's so degrading.
Yeah, they kept
But
the
that's it. Yeah, working
cameras
on the-
keep on turning. That's what they keep saying. Oh man,
Sorry.
Oh.
Oh, it's bad.
And then
It's
they have
so
like it's
bad.
just all these dancing, like it's just remember the girls with the fruit on their head,
Oh,
the stars with
God.
the feet. They just dance.
That's right. There's people in giant
It's
star
like a Simpsons
costumes.
episode. If you really want to know what it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh
how
my
the
God.
Simpsons mock these kind of things.
Yeah,
This kind of is this what it feels
Yes.
like? Yeah.
It feels like a Simpsons joke, but it happened in real life, and so
Oh.
it tanked. Unsurprisingly, it fucking tanked. It was like a lead balloon, a fart in church. It just was.
Well,
so, it
didn't they
instantly
say
tanked.
somebody at Disney started this campaign?
Yeah, so it does. Yeah, exactly. So we can get into that, which I that's like what Bruce Valanche had to say. I don't know. I mean, it sounds true, right? So Bruce Valanche says that.
Mhm.
Well, first he said Gregory Peck, who at I think the time was the president of the Academy, which president of the Academy, frankly, is like a jerk off move. In other words, like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, we'll make you, you aren't really doing, something significant, right? It's like you're president of the Film Academy, or anyway. So it was Gregory Peck that led the like critical, like, oh, this was beneath us, and how could they? Well, it's like, dude, it was on your watch. First of all, I don't know what you're complaining about. You're the fucking president, like, of this organization. Bruce Valanche says that, well, because Snow White is obviously a Disney character, but Snow White's also in the public domain, which I didn't realize
Right.
that until seeing this.
Yeah.
So they at the Academy did not, and I guess this was before, because come on, we know that the Academy now it's owned by it's not owned by ABC, but ABC carries the Academy Awards, right? And so ABC, though, at the time, I don't think was associated with Disney quite yet, because
Right.
basically the Frank Morris, or the guy that made the big beef with it afterward, was the head of Disney, and his big contention, or his big bone was, well, that's Snow White, and they pushed back, like what I just said, like she's in the public domain, and so really it kind of, maybe he said, comes down to them being pissed at Disney that they use Snow White. But then he said that, like, they had a partnership with MGM, at where we all remember, like, Disney MGM Studios. Remember that? Like,
Yeah.
there was that they're opening a theme park, right? They're opening their Florida theme park. And so Disney found a way around a rule at that time that you couldn't, the Academy refused to show commercials for any of the movies that were up for contention at the Oscars that year, because they didn't want to seem biased by showing like a trailer, like a movie commercial during the commercials, right? So as a fuck you to them, Disney was like, well, we're just going to have all of the commercials for Chevy filmed at the new MGM Disney lot. So it was like a workaround. So something like it caused that's really what was at the core of it, was like a business squabble was that's what Bruce Valanche said. And it sounds true,
Okay.
you know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, yeah.
Was
Who
that
knows?
like it was, you know, but the end result was it started like a chorus of people saying, and I mean, it was bad. It was pretty.
It was bad, but I mean, you've seen a lot of bad like Oscar
Correct.
opening ceremonies. I was like,
Especially
this
since
kind of was
then.
par for the course during the 80s, you know?
Well, how about, I mean, I don't think it gets worse though. I mean, yeah, at that time,
I mean, there were
Pretty bad, and
moments that are
since
like,
then,
oh,
pretty bad.
Christ, that's bad, you know?
I wonder because the conversation with Rob Lowe on Rogan, I wonder like when did the Oscar the wrong when did Moonlight happen, when it was the wrong was Moonlight, La La Land was red,
Oh,
when
what was
Faye
that?
Dunaway
Like,
read La La Land. Like I wonder when that happened.
Yeah, like 17 or something?
Yeah, like I wonder if when the Joe Rogan, like in other words, when Rob Lowe was on Joe Rogan talking about bombing, like I
Oh,
wonder
okay.
where that was in relation to that Oscars, because that one was really bad. Like,
well, that's like a moment, kind of like, you know,
yeah, this is like a
yeah,
whole sequence.
that's
You know,
this is like really bombing. Like you're performing on stage and
Yeah.
you just bombed.
Well, you
And
know, it
I
comes
don't know
down to
if you
bad
noticed
taste.
it then, though.
It comes down to really just bad taste, because I saw a couple of the videos too, but essentially, you know, about this was that we're talking about Alan Carr, who, you know, I don't know if I'll get my gay card pulled, but like I'm not 100% familiar. I know of this and I know of Grease. I haven't seen that documentary though. I
Yeah.
really want to watch that now. Did you watch that one or?
No, I have not watched.
Oh,
it.
okay. Yeah. It's called like The Fabulous Alan
Yeah,
Carr, I
yeah.
think, and his rise and fall. But you know, all of it hinged, at
I
least for
believe
him.
Jeffrey Schwartz directed that. I like
Yeah.
his stuff. Yeah.
Well, all of it for Alan Carr hinged on this, because he was basically, you know, turned out and thrown out of Hollywood for this, and then became even like he was already, you know, known to have, you know, party in excess. I think he was already.
Yeah,
know,
he was
drinking
on his way.
drugs. This did not help. You know,
No, I
this
know.
totally sent him even further down that, you know, the deadly spiral that I guess he was found dead. I think, you know, not very long after that. But yeah, he was basically just turned out on his ear.
How did he die?
Yeah, I think he just
Was it
overdosed.
okay? He was just
I mean,
fucked
if
up.
only there was a device, you know. But yeah, I mean, this was the 89 Oscars. So yeah, he definitely died like I think 96 or 97.
Oh, okay.
You know, he died pretty soon after this. And
Yeah, this is the
it
Rain
wa-
Man Oscars.
yeah. And so, you know, it makes sense that he died, you know, I don't want to say penniless because I don't know that part, but I know he was turned out from Hollywood. But yeah, you know, there was other forces at work that participated or contributed to, you know, the whole campaign. It was a whole campaign against Alan Carr. He was the one and Eileen Bowman.
Right. So
She
I
didn't do
saw
a
one
damn
interview with
thing
her a while
after.
ago, and I was just like, oh man, I can't believe she had to like. I don't think
No,
that nowadays she'd have to go through that because everyone's so, you know, tries not to bully too much. But fuck,
What do you
back
mean?
then she got it.
Yeah. Oh, she like what was she was from like San Diego, right?
Yeah,
And
she's San Diego.
She didn't do anything else after that. Like to say her
Well, she's
career.
a stage
Yeah.
actress, so I mean, you
It's-
know, good for her. At least she got to keep working. She said,
Yeah.
you know, so she just didn't do
Yeah.
film.
Yeah. She just never. Yeah. She never got beyond the stage down there, and so it's sad because like, are there other moments that you would compare this? Like this was a really huge miss. You know, this was a really
Yeah, that's the difference between like controversial moments, right? Like, you know, the Marlon Brando Oscar, or the guy streaking, like those are moments. But these
That
are
was so
like you
cool.
said, it's a sequence that bombs.
that was
and
David Nevin, right?
David Niven. Yeah, yeah.
David Niven, right? That was awesome. That's a good moment. Yeah.
Yeah,
like the
there's a lot of
streaker.
those great controversial, like shocking moments. The
Mhm.
slap obviously has now probably become the biggest one. You know?
Stupid. My God.
The slap has definitely taken
the
over as the new
stupidest
king of
thing.
Oscar moments, but actually like
Oscar
failed
stupidity.
bits. That's a good one. You know, the last time I seen anything really criticized, because the Oscars the show sucks now. So
Mhm.
they don't,
Yeah.
it's not even brutal on the host. No one even gets like they're just not even good to even critique them. But I remember the last one, isn't it earlier 2000s when Billy Crystal was hosting, and I think it was the last time he hosted. He did a couple bits during it that I don't know if that went over well, or I got criticized more than he's ever been criticized. And I think he like did blackface of Sammy Davis Jr.
Oh, that's right.
It was good. It worked before.
Oh,
it just didn't work much later.
It's funny
nowadays.
Whenever I'm trying to explain something to somebody and it's like two things that sound like each other, I always go Oprah, Uma, Oprah, Oprah, Uma. That's the one I think of. That was like, oh, dude, like everybody hated Letterman.
Oh, I remember that one. Yeah,
yeah. So stupid. And he just stood there like an idiot, waiting for them to like laugh, and nobody did. And oh god, sad.
Yeah, that was a bad one.
That was a bad one.
I know. They're just not good. I love Billy Crystal. To me, was the last great host. I think that's what the Oscars needed, like that kind of host, that Bob Hope thing.
Even Whoopi was
pretty
funnier.
Good. Whoopi's pretty good.
That was actually the last thing that I'm glad you like text me as a reminder, because I was like falling down a wormhole, and one of them was watching Whoopi's entrances. She used to make some really, really funny entrances.
Yeah, she is good. I like Whoopi
as like Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah. I liked her the most out of like the Steve Martin group, and all those guys who hosted and Letterman. But I liked Whoopi the most. But I like those guys and that are just kind of reoccurring. Johnny Carson was doing it, and Bob Hope. I don't know. I think that's what they need to do.
Because it obviously, so I think the other thing we got to mention about this particular debacle, right? So we got to bring it back to the Rob Lowe factor. This was about 3, maybe 6 months. This was not the craziest thing that happened to Rob Lowe that year.
That is not the craziest thing that happened.
What happened to Rob Lowe later in 1989?
He got busted having sex with an underage girl.
On video.
Yeah.
On fucking video in 1989, dude. That we're talking about, these are still the days of like Jimmy Swaggart and maybe even pre, Jimmy Baker and what's her face, like I don't know, had that happened yet? Like we're talking about even more of
because this debacle on the Oscars was March of '89, so this was like April '89.
Yeah, where did Rob Lowe? Well, no, the Rob Lowe video came out later in the summer, though.
Oh, it did. I thought it was
had
April.
happened.
Okay.
Yeah. So this thing with Eileen Bowman on the Oscars was not even the craziest thing that happened to Rob Lowe that year. About 3 or 6 months later, he was at the Democratic convention. It was like he was at so it was the 89 Oscars, but I think it was 480. You know how
it was 488, but it was the 1989 Oscars.
Yeah, so it was like he was at a Democratic convention. That's right.
That's where it came out. It came out while he was at the convention.
Well, it was filmed at the convention.
Oh, he banged her at the convention?
Yep. The Democratic convention would have been in 88. So that's awesome. Where the footage was recorded at, but it came out in late summer of 89. That's what it was. Oh, because it came. God. I know that much. I know it came from he was in Chicago, I think. I don't know why. Like, if I was the Democrats, I would never go back to Chicago. Just too much wild shit happens for them in Chicago. And so, he or like it was somewhere that but he had a couple of like hookers. One of them was underage, or they weren't even hookers. They were probably just. Oh,
he had more than one.
Oh yeah, he had 2 girls. One of them was underage.
Oh, God, he was
filmed in a 3-way with 2 girls. One of them was like 16 or 17.
Other one was probably like 18 or something.
Yeah, turned 18. Course, yeah. I mean, he was young too. He wasn't no teenager, but
no, he was. Yeah, he was young. He was young.
He was He was Brat Pack. He was full blown president.
In the 40s, it wouldn't have been a big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Wouldn't have made a blip. Nobody would have thought.
If it was Bogey and Bacall, it was nothing.
Exactly. Where's Bogey and Bacall? Yeah. No. So that's actually too what some of the folks were saying was that kind of, because everybody was already hating on Rob Lowe from the Oscars, I believe that's what maybe was in the conversation with Joe Rogan too, because it was like, well, That actually is
Damn,
what
his career
is
didn't
what
get hit
picked up.
that
Not
bad.
really, not really at all. I mean,
He was out for a few years, and he came back in the
Mhm.
'90s, started doing those
he's
comedies, and
good
he was
looking.
out of
He's
nowhere. He was back
sexy.
in.
Everybody loves him. Honestly, come on. Like, I'm not gonna say it's a victimless crime, but he didn't do anything to hurt anybody in actual Hollywood. And you and I both know,
Right.
that's, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
if you can
Yeah.
if you can manage to rehabilitate your own image,
Yeah.
they'll take you back.
He wasn't at the freak offs.
No, not with. I mean, I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe who the hell
Since
knows?
then, call Diddy because he's still waiting in jail as of this recording.
The freak offs.
The freak off.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
man.
I'm still like rattling my brain now for just because sometimes this is completely ridiculous, but sometimes I will watch a lot of different Oscar ceremonies. The first 20 minutes
Yeah.
of any Oscars I'll always
I do that
watch. I'll
too.
just go on YouTube and watch like the 78 Oscars opening, and I don't know. I've always liked when they like nowadays they always have bad ratings because I think they're trying to be too
Mhm.
hip, and I don't think they're prestigious anymore, and they need
Yeah.
to like kind of up their status some. But I like it the old way, like how the president of the Academy would come out and talk real fast. It was like all
Well, they
formal.
cut a bunch of categories. Listen, I think sure there's categories that it's like yawn, like come on. Are we really checking for, let me think, like frankly, like I hate to say it, but there's certain craft tech that they give
Yeah, but it's
awards
part of the
to.
show.
But it's part of the
keep
show,
it
but
interesting. It's part of the show.
One thing I saw that I agree with, because one of the episodes or one of the openings was Whoopi's. I had seen, and Whoopi made a joke. She goes, she was like, yes, she kind of got smart with the audience. Like, yes, it's long. We know this show is long.
Mhm.
You're going to be with me all night or something. And then she was like, that's because she basically got her pimp hand out and was like, so what? Like that, because that's how we do it. And so
It's
what?
kind of
And
like
there's
in
an attitude of
sports,
that
though.
missing, though. There's
Yeah,
an
but it's
attitude
kind
of
of. I just want to say it's kind of like in sports, though. When you try to make something quicker and take down the runtime just to
Mhm.
move the show along, it always
Mhm.
suffers.
Correct. Yeah. And I think that he doesn't even just about cutting categories. There's so much stuff that they just could rejigger. But at the same time, I think what she's saying in her joke is like, listen, where else are you going to go for this show? Right? Get into it. It's like, if it's too long, it's too long. And I think there's some of that missing from some of the quality that makes it like must-see kind of TV. I think they're too much going now for like viral moments, right? They're too much going for the Ellen and her pizza order.
Well, Will Smith gave him one. That's for damn
Good
sure.
Lord. Yeah. Well, I know. And they can sit there and cry about it as much as they want. They love it. They love the crazier, the better.
The crazier, the better. Absolutely.
Short of burning down the building, and even then, hey, will it work?
Yeah.
And
everything's on the table.
Everything's on the table for exactly. Yeah. No, I think exactly what she said, that as far as like, but the joke she made too was Oscar is the only man in Hollywood who doesn't need Viagra to last 3 hours. So it's true, it's like, okay, all right. And everybody was like, oh, and it was that was at the I always forget the number of which edition, but it was the 2002 Oscars, which was right after 9/11, and she
I remember that. I remember she did that. Yeah.
So, there's good moments. And I think that, like, obviously don't waste
she was funny
time,
in that one, though. Yeah.
It was funny. Yeah. One of the times she came out as Queen Elizabeth in all whiteface. It was hilarious.
Yeah, that was good. I remember that. Yeah.
So, yeah. Because there was like 2 or 3 Queen Elizabeth movies that year.
Oh, my God. She'd get in trouble if she did that now.
Oh, I know. Right. So
you can't even make fun of white people.
I know. I know. Right. Well, I don't know. Ask this is post-election, so I'm not saying anything any longer.
Oh, you say whatever you want. If they come in, throw a bag over.
But I'm like, I'm like, dude, he could come shoot you in the face if he wanted to, and be like, "Oh, I'm immune. I don't know what to tell you." It's like, whew. I'm sorry, this isn't a political podcast, but I just got to say, man, if Joe Biden doesn't pardon his son just out of like sheer pimp-handed move, just out of like, I'm the fucking president and I can do whatever the fuck I want now that like I'm immune, boy, that tells you all you need to know why the Democrats lost, because that's the kind of shit right there. It's like, dude, you have had immunity for months now. You could have done anything you wanted, and you haven't even pardoned your son.
He might hate his son though. Who knows?
I mean, it's
Who
a
knows
pimp
what people
move,
are
though.
thinking, you know?
It's a fucking, it's a boss move. It would be a boss. I mean, something. It would show something. You got to admit, it would show something. If you could just do anyway. Who do you think is up for Oscars this year coming up? What have you seen so far? I know there's a lot of stuff.
I will say
held back until now.
Yeah, I think you're going to hear Wicked. A lot.
Really?
I do. I mean,
all right. I think it could happen.
Yeah, I do. I think you'll hear a little bit of that. I mean, we both love Substance a lot. I do hope you get something for Demi Moore. I'd love to see that.
Man.
Or,
that's the Norma Desmond nomination this year. If anything,
I'd love to see that.
Because it is so. I can't get over that movie. I watched it again with a friend when I was down in LA recently, and just because it was like, you have to see this movie. If I had to see it, you have to see it, and it's like so good.
And I'm still pulling for Megalopolis. I don't give a shit. I'm gonna die on that hill.
And get nominated for anything, do you?
Yeah, I know. I mean, God,
maybe a Razzie
there. I mean, yeah. I even like Costner's movie a little bit. I don't know. I mean, what wasn't like a big budget IP movie that was really good?
I would say probably. Well, it wasn't my favorite movie, but I think we might hear about Challengers. Remember the tennis movie?
Yeah, maybe in the screenplay and stuff like that. But like as far as like the heavy hitters, I think
I could be wrong, but I read that screenplay for Challengers, and that gay kiss was not in it. Like where the two dudes make out when she tells them to. Which, spoiler alert, we hate spoilers here, but
yeah, we hate them.
Right? Wink, wink. No, that was the whole thing about that movie, was the gay kiss between the two.
Okay.
While they're having a 3-way with Zendaya, but it's like only it's only they were just making out, and then she tells them to make out. So it's like, it's all of a sudden it's got moment. Buzz. That's the big moment, but because I was saying that I read the screenplay. I don't remember that moment being in the screenplay, which would make sense if like Luca Guadagnino kind of just added that in there,
Is he gay?
Well, I asked Bree that when we saw the movie. I mean, he got
away with Suspiria. It seems like a straight guy couldn't do that. Get all those girls naked.
He did. Yeah, well, exactly. He did Call Me by Your Name, which I mean, right there, so it would make sense. He
isn't Queer. His
has
movie
the upcoming Queer. Yeah, the
yeah.
upcoming movie with what's his face, Daniel
Craig. Yeah,
James Bond.
Yeah.
Daniel Craig. Yep. So, but that too, Queer, I think had some steam, but I think might be losing that steam now as far as like attention for it, or the one everybody keeps talking about that they say it's a shoo-in. There's two of them people are saying is a shoo-in. It's the Sean Baker one, which I can't.
I'm sorry, Nora. I have not seen that yet. I really want to see it.
Let me know if you see it.
I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, I've been wanting to see that one a lot.
I'm not really a big fan of his movies, but
really, I like him. I actually think he's good.
I thought the Florida Project was like, okay, it was a little too long, and I did like his. I did like the one that he had with the trans hookers. Almost said
that's Tangerine.
Yeah,
yeah.
Cut that out. No, cut it out. Leave it out.
But I love Red Rocket though. I thought that was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't get to see that one. I don't know. I just feel like his movies are I can't tell if he's trying to link them in there. Like they're all kind of, it would make sense if they were like all linked together, if like, oh, they're all part of the same universe. But because he uses the same, this is going to sound weird, but he uses the same font. If you look at all of the posters for all of his films, which the posters end up being, the font in the posters ends up being in the credits, basically. Look at all of the posters of Sean Baker's films, and all of them use the same font. So I'm kind of like, okay, what do you? And to me, they're all kind of repetitive of his sort of style, And I haven't found it interesting since Tangerine, which I think was like his really first major one, Like everything else has been kind of derivative of his initial kind of hype. But I think there could be something for him this year. And then the other one that I haven't seen yet, speaking of transgenders, there's it's a movie called Amelia Perez, and
I
they're
heard that
talking
one,
about it's supposed to be on Netflix soon. So it like that was a big thing for Netflix, that like Netflix hates doing what I think they call it day and date, right? Where it's like basically theatrical release for an actual movie in the theater that you'd have to see in a public theater, you know, not just like a private theater or not just like a special screening. It has to be like made available for the public to see it, but just in LA and New York. So it's not really like that inclusive, you know.
Right.
It kind of explains though why big popcorn movie didn't always do well at the Oscars, because it's like, well, you know, it just has to kind of do well in LA and New York.
Well, I wish they would cut that out from the Oscars. I think that's part of the problem. I think this.
Well, that's the thing with this movie. It's called Amelia Perez, and Netflix is its big backer. And I don't know exactly what it's about, but the actress in it is transgender, and the only reason I know is because as a male, he was an actor in like Spanish novellas and other kind of other kind of fare like that. And so has since transitioning. This is her,
like for real
in real life. Yes.
Oh,
yes. I can't think of her name offhand, but her name is it's a play or inclusive of her previous name. Like if your name was Vito, it would be Vita or something like that. You know, it's like, in other words, he added, kind of feminized his name, which I think, you know, that makes sense, you know. And so he is, I think, because, you know, you don't want to, he has like a really big following in Latin America. He's got a really big following, or she had a big following as a male. And this is kind of her first outing as a trans female actress. And so they're saying that she could get nominated for it. I mean,
Hollywood's probably all over that. They probably have a big boner for that movie without even seeing it.
Well, yeah, you know, exactly. Yeah. So, God, I'm trying not to make a comment that's going to get me canceled. So I'm not going to do that. You're putting.
Okay. Well, you can make any comment you want.
No, I know.
This is a free country, especially now that we have Donald Trump as our president.
Oh, yeah, Donald Trump in office. Oh, God.
This is a free country. God damn it.
He's going to solve it all. Yeah. No. Anyway, so
all right, you don't have to make your comment.
Those two movies have like the most like kind of smoke or heat on them right now still, but I think it's still a long time away. Surprisingly long.
What's Rob Lowe doing now? He's on that TV show, right? He does like that. Who? Rob Lowe, isn't he on that? Like, it's one of those like Rescue 911 type of shows. He's like a fireman or something.
Okay, I'll buy that.
Then didn't he have a show for a while where him and his kids were like like ghost hunting or something?
Probably. I mean, he's talking about a horror. I mean,
hey, good for him.
Big whore. They all, you know, you got to be. You really, I mean, you know,
he kept good skin for most of his life.
Yeah, he's made it last. You know, I mean, he's probably only had like one facelift, probably, which is good.
That's really good. If that's all he had,
that's all he had
to me.
Lunchtime lift, just something, you know, local anesthetic, really. Not
lunchtime lift. I like that.
Just local anesthetic, local.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to close it out with that song too, so everyone's gonna have to hear the whole entire thing. Too.
God, we're
not gonna give anyone a break. We're gonna go all the way with it. We're going all the way.
So bad.
Ladies and gentlemen, Merv Griffin.
I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. There they are standing in a row. Big ones, small ones, some as big as your head. You give them a twist, a flick of the wrist, what the showman said. Good evening and welcome to the fabulous Coconut Grove, where every night is exciting. Meet the stars, Mr. Buddy Rogers, Miss Alice Faye, Mr. Tony Martin, his beautiful wife, Sid Charisse. Lovely eyes at me, they were beaming, they were scheming, and I was starstruck. Ladies and gentlemen, Miss Dorothy Lamour. Here they are, Roy Rogers and Dale Evans. You've opened heaven's portal here on earth for this poor mortal, Vincent Price and Coral Brown. Isn't it exciting, Snow? Isn't it thrilling? It gets better. Meet your blind date, Rob Lowe.
Mr. Lowe, I'm such a fan.
Really? Well, I'm a big fan of yours, Snow, but you know, there's so much I'd like to know about you.
Used to work a lot for Walt Disney, starring in cartoons every night and day.
But you said goodbye to Grumpy and Sleepy, left the dwarves behind, came to town to stay.
Weird lights keep on burning, cameras keep on turning. Ooh, rolling, rolling, keep the cameras rolling,
Rolling, rolling, keep the cameras rolling, keep the cameras rolling. Now you made it big in the movies, came to Hollywood, learned to play the game. You became a star as an animated mama, earned yourself a place in the Walk of Fame. Street lights keep on burning, cameras keep on turning. Rolling, rolling, keep the cameras rolling.
Chinese theater. It's a place where people come to near and far. From the plush of your seat in the Grauman's Chinese theater, wherever you look, you see a movie star.
Girls in sarongs, monsters and cakes, see scarlet makeup dress out of the drapes. Life can be grand from the third row. Whenever you're down in the dumps, try putting on Judy's red pumps. Just go to the
Well, I told them I'd be thrilled to do the Oscars if they could just come up with an entrance. And think of it, more than 1.5 billion people just watched that. Oh, God. Oh. And at this very moment, they're trying to make sense of it. And in how many different languages? It's mind-boggling. I knew it was going to happen one day. The whole planet has gone Hollywood. So pull up a seat and be prepared to spend the next few hours sitting on the edge of it. And welcome to the show. We'll be right back.
The 61st Annual Academy Awards will return in a moment with Melanie Griffith and Don Johnson.